I was 8 when I first noticed Kofi. Really noticed him. He wasn't like the rest of us kids in the village. We played, laughed, and argued about silly things like who could climb the tallest tree. Kofi, though, was always alone. I remember the first time I saw him sitting on the steps of the school. He had his knees pulled up to his chest, his face buried in his hands. His clothes didn't fit properly, too big and patched in so many places it looked like they might fall apart. The kids played all around him, but no one went near him. It was like he wasn't even there. "That's the boy whose mother died when he was born," my cousin whispered to me. "They say he's cursed. Bad things happen to people who get too close to him." Cursed? I didn't know if I believed that, but there was something about him that made me uncomfortable. Not because I thought he was cursed, but because he looked so empty, like all the light had been drained out of him. The boy no one wanted Kofi lived with the blacksmith and his wife. Everyone said they took him in out of pity, but they didn't treat him like family. He was more like a worker. I'd see him carrying water from the river, chopping firewood, or cleaning the blacksmith's tools while their son ran around playing games with us. He never complained. I'd watch him sometimes, and even when he was tired or his hands were blistered, he just kept going. But what got to me was the way he sat by himself every night, staring at the sky. I started hearing things about him. "He talks to the stars," one girl said. "My mother says he's waiting for his mother's ghost to come back," another boy added. That stuck with me. I started sneaking closer when he was out there, sitting under the sky. I heard him whispering, but it wasn't to the stars or any ghost. "Is there anyone out there who will love me?" He said it so quietly, but his voice was full of something I couldn't explain. Desperation, maybe, or sadness, so deep it made my chest ache just to hear it. The disappearance one morning, Kofi was gone. No one knew where he went, and honestly, no one seemed to care much. The blacksmith muttered something about him being lazy and running off. But I cared. I don't know why, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. 3 days passed before he came back. It was early evening when I saw him stumbling out of the forest. He looked terrible, covered in mud, his arms and legs scratched up like he'd been fighting thorn bushes. And in his hands, he was holding a tiny bird. Everyone in the village gathered around him. "Where have you been?" someone asked. Kofi didn't answer. He just cradled the bird, his eyes fixed on it like nothing else in the world mattered. The bird had a broken wing. It couldn't fly, and Kofi made it his mission to take care of it. He built a little cage out of sticks and vines, fed it crumbs of bread, and talked to it like it was a person. I thought it was strange at first, but then I saw how different Kofi looked when he was with the bird. He wasn't sad anymore. He smiled when he watched it eat, and when it chirped, his whole face lit up. I started sitting nearby, pretending to play with sticks or draw in the dirt just so I could watch. One day I worked up the courage to ask him, "Why do you care so much about that bird?" Kofi didn't look at me right away. He was focused on the bird, stroking its head gently. Then he said, "It's the first thing that ever needed me." That answer stuck with me. What happened next? The bird stayed with Kofi for weeks. Its wing healed slowly, and it started hopping around. Kofi seemed to change during that time. He started talking more, not just to the bird but to me and some of the other kids. He still didn't play with us, but he didn't feel so far away anymore. Then one day, something strange happened. I was sitting nearby, watching Kofi like I always did. The bird flapped its wings and flew a short distance, landing on his shoulder. Kofi froze, and for a moment it was like time stopped. The bird leaned close to his ear, and I swear it whispered something. I couldn't hear what it said, but Kofi's face changed. He smiled, not a small smile, but a big, bright one. After that, the bird flew away. Kofi didn't cry or look sad. He just stood there watching it go, like he knew it was time. The changed Kofi was different after that. He wasn't so quiet anymore. He started helping out around the village, not because he was told to, but because he wanted to. People began to notice him in a new way. "He's a good boy," my grandmother said one evening. "Maybe he just needed time." The blacksmith's wife even started treating him better, giving him extra food at dinner and letting him rest when he finished his chores. What I learned? I never asked Kofi what the bird said to him that day. Part of me didn't want to know. I think it was something only he was meant to hear.
But watching him, I learned something. Sometimes all a person needs is a little love, even if it's from the most unexpected place. And sometimes that love can be enough to heal even the deepest wounds. Kofi taught me that. Without even trying, he changed the way I saw the world.